Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the All Around Growth Podcast. Today is Friday, September 10th, 2021. This is episode number 191 of a show that is intended to provide some insight and tools to building the lives and homesteads of our dreams. My name is Rob Kaiser, and I am your host. It's a chilly morning this morning, and because we are on the cusp of autumn, I wanted to read from 365 Tao to close out the week. It's not even daybreak, so I'm going to take it slow down the driveway and read under the light of the truck. It's the 253rd day of the year. Today we're going to talk about patience. This apple is like a jewel, with every shade of red and green and a perfect shape. What a miraculous fruit. The owner of an orchard came to visit me one day. He kindly remembers me each year with the best of his crop. As we shared a lunch, the talk turned to fishing. He told me that he once had a great love of fishing, but that he now had little time for it. I am an impatient man, he told me. I replied that I thought him very patient. After all, not everyone can plant trees and tend them until they bear good fruit. He insisted that there was something to do every moment and that his orchards needed constant attention. This year's apples are a bit smaller, he apologized. I could have made them bigger by thinning the trees. It takes a man an entire day to prune a tree properly, and with over 500 trees, you can imagine the difficulty and expense of the task. So I let the trees grow as they wanted, and was still able to send my crop to market. The apples were sweet, of course, and not nearly as small as he said they were. Those who follow Tao say all the things happen in their own time. What is lazy and what is hard work? Those who follow Tao say to follow nature. That requires patience. By knowing when to let the trees grow as they wanted, the orchard owner still had a good crop. Those who follow Tao say to follow nature. And that, my friends, is perhaps the biggest takeaway of this reading this morning. I tuned in yesterday to something Curtis Stone was doing on Telegram. For those of you who don't know who Curtis Stone is, he is someone that I met at the Permaculture Voices conference. I guess I saw some of his talks at the first one, but then actually got to know him a little bit on a more personal level during the second one. And his claim to fame, if you will, is he wrote a book titled The Urban Farmer, and he made a living and made a name for himself as the urban farmer, making a living farming in an urban context without owning land. And he provides a great framework for people who are interested in farming but don't have the ability or access to land, especially people who are in a suburban or, in his case, an urban setting. Over the past few years, he has shifted gears and went, I don't want to say he went dark. He was still producing a lot of content, but I wasn't following him as much. And the content that I saw was a little bit different. He made a transition from the urban context to a larger scale farm context, market farming and beyond, homesteading. And he's got a channel now called, and he refers to himself as the SHTF farmer, or when the shit hits the fan farmer. And that should provide enough context into the direction that he's taking his work now. And he's got a subscription channel called FromTheField.tv, where he posts all of his own content, and it's a membership driven platform, and it looks pretty cool. So, you know, you can get an idea of what, you know, some of what it's all about by tuning into his broadcast channel and also his chat. But there was a lengthy streaming session yesterday that he recorded, and luckily I do enough computer work, and some of it is repetitive data entry, and I can listen to things in the background, and if I'm on a computer I can even watch certain things because our system is slow and we're still waiting for new switches to arrive, because apparently the supplier of, well, the vendor of our supplier for our internet, or our IT infrastructure supplier is our contractor is having some issues. So we've had some switches on order for quite some time, still not here. That should resolve the problem, but nevertheless, until that gets fixed, I still have time to spend engaging in communities like Telegram, or platforms like Telegram and Discord. So as I tuned in and listened to Curtis, he spent some time, especially some time towards the end of his broadcast, talking about how a lot of the problems that we are experiencing societally, culturally, in this day and age are a result of people not following nature. We've created these artificial environments where we live in climate-controlled homes. We walk outside to get into our climate-controlled vehicle to go to a job, oftentimes that's task-oriented or knowledge-oriented, and sit in our climate-controlled offices having meetings with people we don't necessarily like, talking about things we don't necessarily care about. And we've, you know, outside of the time that we allow ourselves to recreate, we don't really engage in anything resembling a natural environment. I'm very grateful, on the other hand, to say that even though I have embraced aspects of white-collar work over the years, I've always been part of the green industry, and nature has always been a part of my life, which is why I went to this book, 365 Tao, today, and which is why it only seems appropriate that in the text of today and in the dialogue of today, we read about nature. In some of the other work of people that I've been following, there's been additional dialogue about nature, the natural life, natural law for that matter. And what I'm about to say is a compilation of thoughts that I've picked up from a number of different people over the past few months, year and a half. And I shared it in the chat with Curtis and everybody else who was in that room, several hundred of us, yesterday. And I felt that when Curtis was talking about nature and our removal from nature, I pointed out that nature abhors a void, and that the spirituality and the growth and development of our spiritual lives is something that has been critical to our human path over time and millennia and cultures everywhere. We've reached a point, as far as I can tell, and we've been growing increasingly towards this point. Certainly throughout my entire lifetime. I'm 43 years old. I was born in 1977. And I've talked a little bit about this with my parents and other confidants, that religion used to be a very integral part of our lives, and over the past few generations, including my own, including our own generation, we've found the idea and concepts of religion challenging. And we want to get away from that. Religion is such an old idea. We're new. We're interested in science. We're interested in what we can prove. We're interested in what we can see, what's tangible. Religion is not. I mean, besides, it's simply based on, the Word of God, which is nothing but the words of man, written and translated time and time again. The fact of the matter is, I can't really disagree with a lot of the arguments that people present, but what I disagree with is the way that they are presented and the manner in which they argue their points. That is what I take issue with, and that is why I rarely engage in discussion with people about these matters, because so few people seemingly maintain the ability to maintain dialogue about these things in a civil and dignified way. And following nature requires patience. My father, a few weeks ago, maybe not even a week ago, a few days ago rather, told me that he pulled an apple off of the tree I planted many years ago. Trees that he bought, trees that I planted, and now pear trees that I bought and planted. And he's enjoying those fruits, and Those fruits are bringing back memories of him and from him. Memories from when I was a child, eating pear trees, eating pears off the tree that grew in the yard where my parents lived when I was a baby. And now, as my parents care for their grandchildren, he finds himself sharing pears with his granddaughter. I am a follower of Tao. I encourage following nature. I'm learning what it takes to be patient. And when the author of the book Dengming Tao writes, by knowing when to let the trees grow as they wanted, the orchard owner still has a good crop. We can even think back to some permaculture principles, things that Mark Shepard from New Forest Farm talks about, the STUN methodology, sheer total utter neglect, or strategic total utter neglect, as others have said, with regard to how they maintain their plants. They don't grow optimally, but because they provide for us, they grow and produce. We let them grow as they want. We still provide good crops. So be strategic with your utter neglect in certain aspects of your lives. Be strategic in how you determine what is lazy and what is hard work. Be strategic as you approach this life, and be patient as you try to understand what it takes to learn patience. That's it for today's episode, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed the show, and if you found yourselves doing exactly that, I would encourage you to share the show. Share it with a loved one, share it on social media, and at least share the episodes that appeal to you and the ones that move you. Don't simply share things blindly when people ask or encourage you to do so. I want you to share it if you got something out of it, and I hope that you did, because I certainly do. If you want to be part of the community, you can certainly join us on Telegram at t.me/allaroundgrowth. But if chat groups aren't your thing, but you are interested in the most current show updates, you can subscribe to the broadcast channel on Telegram as well, t.me/allaroundgrowthpodcast. As always, check out the show notes. There's links to the easiest ways to leave ratings and reviews in the Apple Podcast app if you're an Apple Podcasts listener. If you're not, that's fine. Go ahead, leave ratings and reviews on your podcast player of choice, or, like I said, share it on social media. There's also links to all episodes in the show notes as well for ease of reference. And, well, I touched on the community, I touched on the broadcast channel, and as far as sharing links and resources for today, that is about it, my friends. It's Friday. I hope that you have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. Look forward to catching up with you then. This is Rob Kaiser, and thank you.